Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Break-Thru Active podcast. This is episode 30. I'm here with Mitch. How are you?
Hey, Jayme, I'm doing well. Thanks, mate. How are you?
Good, thank you. We haven't done a podcast together for a while because I had my teeth out. I had my wisdom teeth, my bottom two, which led to the topic of this podcast, which is titled Routines and Patterns.
Would have been a hard couple of days for you, mate, not being able to yell at people at the gym.
Absolutely. But it's always a really good perspective for myself to feel really unmotivated and just really out of the groove. And just what happened was I had my teeth out on Tuesday, and my plan was to go back and train 7 days later, the following Tuesday. And every day that passed, I was staying up later, I was getting up later, I was eating next to nothing. And I saw you on Saturday night, and I was in all sorts. I didn't feel like myself. So I'm going back to the gym first thing in the morning. And for the last 5 years, I can't remember a time when where I've been less motivated or had less discipline to train. And I truly believe that goes back just to, I lost all my routines and patterns I built over the years.
Yeah, I remember I was speaking to you on Sunday, and you said that you were even just sitting in the car for quite a while before you walked into the gym, just trying to G yourself up to walk in. And
it was probably 25 minutes, 25 minutes of just having a discussion with myself. Like, what is wrong with you? Go inside the gym.
You had voices in both your ears, but it is, and what we kind of drew from that, and we spoke about it maybe the following day, was it is really important for us to remember that when it comes to members, when we have people who maybe go away on a trip, or they've had some time off because they haven't been feeling great or whatever it may be, and trying to get back into the swing of things there, we sometimes don't completely realize how challenging that can be until we have an instance like that. If we compare it to someone who is starting with us, who hasn't been training or exercising for years, then you can only begin to imagine what sorts of conversations they're having in their head when they do first get in contact with us, or when they do commit to coming on a certain day. And until we hear something like what happened with Jayme, it's something that we can sometimes forget, because we do it so often. We have members coming all the time. We have new people starting out. We have always been fairly consistent with our training, but when we do hear a story like that, it really does put it in perspective just how challenging it can be when you are breaking that routine, obviously for a positive reason, but when you are trying to make a change, it can be really hard.
Yeah, and I in the end, I had 6 days off. I was Monday morning. I had 6 days off, and by Sunday, I felt like I'd never lifted a weight in my life, and I've been lifting weights now for 12 years. So it is like, momentum is such an important thing, and that sometimes can hurt us, both of us, because we train too much, because we don't want to stop, because we know what happens when we stop.
Yeah, it's something that we experience with our members as well. The ones who have been the most consistent and the most active over the years are the ones that do it regularly, and finding that midpoint of how often they should be coming each week or each month. They've sort of figured that out themselves over time with some guidance from us. But it is incredibly challenging when you are stopping and starting all the time. And I really feel as though the momentum that you gain by doing something over and over and over again, and it's something that is probably overused in terms of the phrasing for it, but when you start building that routine, it becomes really powerful. And it doesn't only apply to training and exercise. It can come back to making your bed in the morning, or keeping your house clean, or, like we've used before, like walking the dog, or whatever it may be. When you do something time after time, it doesn't even have to be daily. It might just be a few times a week, or whatever the frequency is. But having that routine is really important. And then it really just becomes part of your lifestyle. And that is something that we speak about to our members a lot, where we want training and we want exercise just to be part of their lifestyle. We don't want them to view it as being a chore. Obviously, there are going to be some days that are harder than others. There's no denying that, but we don't ever want it to feel like it did for Jayme there on that Sunday morning, where you're effectively just fighting the devil, trying to get will yourself to start training.
Yeah, and I hate when people say this. I don't feel like myself. I don't even know what that means, but I didn't feel like myself. And it just shows the power that, like, it's just that consistency of going to bed on time, waking up at the same time, eating at similar times throughout the day, training throughout the same time of the day. I think we both experience this too, is we both train at 7:30 in between our early morning and mid-morning. And even then, if I miss that early morning session for whatever reason, I go at 11, but it's definitely much more challenging.
Yeah,
The same way you have circadian rhythms when you sleep, you have circadian rhythms throughout the entire day. There is a reason why I like exercising at 7:30. My body is primed at that time. I get hungry at 11, 1, 3, the same times every day. It's just that routine.
my dogs are always ready to have dinner every night at 8 o'clock, pretty much on the dot. It's
Yeah,
it's amazing, but
and they know.
it exactly, and that's where we have quite a few shift workers who are a part of our gyms, and members who have been with us, for a long time. And there is absolutely no question that it makes things a lot more challenging when you don't have that routine. And any shift worker, I'm sure, will attest to that and say the same. When you're going from day shifts to afternoon shifts to night shifts, trying to mix in sleep, obviously the most important thing at that point. Sleep patterns are out the window. Your training can become more irregular because of your sleep and of course everything else going on. But just having any sort of normality can be really hard. And for shift workers, I mean, my heart really does go out for you guys, because it does make things really challenging. But for the rest of you guys who do have some regularity with when you're working and the time that you can go to bed and the time that you can wake up and the time that you can eat, keeping that as standard as you can and as similar from day to day as possible is really going to be the way that you are going to be able to develop good routines and healthy routines. I feel as though if you are getting up at the same time each morning, going to bed at the same time each night, eating breakfast at the same time, eating lunch and dinner at the same time, then you start to become this being in this within your body. You are doing the same things at the same time every day. And I really feel as though that's probably the way that we were made. I think to be having consistency within our lives. But for a lot of people, having that regularity with things like that is something that they haven't had for a long time.
Yeah, and it even applies for business. So we don't go on holidays very much. But the second I got back from Bali, I was on the phone to you. And that day we raced up to Kurri and we moved equipment together.
Yep,
And
that's
for
right.
me, that was just really, really important. I had until Monday off. It was like Friday, 1 p.m. But by the end of that day on Friday, I felt like I was back and my head was back in the game. And your head being back in the game, another poor saying, like, I don't feel like myself at the moment. Having your head back in the game or being, I guess, conscious of what's around you, that applies to training, nutrition, business, everything. Like, if you're conscious about what you're doing and you're focused, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, and you only have to use that same example for people after they've had a holiday or some time off and going back to work. It's we hear it all the time how hard it is just to wake up early after having 2 or 3 weeks off and going back into work at the same time that you were going every single day for months and months and months and months. But getting out of that pattern and getting out of that routine all of a sudden after doing whatever you want basically for 2 weeks, it's really challenging. And I feel as though for a lot of people, unless they did have to be there because they're bosses and managers and whatnot, then they probably wouldn't. They'd probably end up being late or push it back the same way that a lot of people end up doing it with training and exercise, where they make their grand plans to come back on Monday or start again Monday, and then they don't have anyone really to be accountable to on that Monday, and then that Monday turns into Tuesday turns into next week, and then it just goes out the window again.
What are some of your best routines? What would you consider to be one of the most important things that you do every day, same time, regardless of the situation?
Yeah, well, obviously, like a lot of our routines and our time commitments are based around sessions. So we are up at the same time each day, and that allows us to train at the same time each day. But for me, it is that morning training session that you spoke about before. If for some reason, and I can't remember this ever happening, where instead of training at 7:30 when we normally do, if I was just to not really be bothered and sit around on my phone for the hour and a half or 2 hours until that next session starts, I wouldn't feel like myself at that point, to your saying. So I think that for me really creates a great starting point for the day for myself. I mean, obviously by that point we've ran a few sessions,
Well,
but then I can rest easy then knowing that I've done something productive for myself. And the same applies on the weekend. Not to say I train every Saturday and every Sunday, but just about the first thing that I'll do after, waking up and moseying about is that I'll go and train myself, or I'll go for a walk with dogs, or I'll do something active just to set my scene for the day, and I feel as though that makes the rest of the day more productive for me, and I can, like I said before, rest easy knowing that I've done something good for myself.
well, the same thing is like it would be so easy for us to skip that training session and go down to Warners Bay waterfront with Brody and Steve and get this beautiful eggs on toast, smash avo, a milkshake. And if I did that, I wouldn't train. And if I didn't train, I had that bad food, the rest of the day would be an absolute write-off for me.
Yeah,
But I guess that morning training
me
session,
too.
that morning training session is just the anchor. It's the first good decision I make for the day, and that is the anchor for the next 10 good decisions I make with food, nutrition, practicing recovery, and eventually going to bed on time.
Yeah, and there's no surprises that our morning sessions have always been busier than our afternoon ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a lot of people, I mean, but there are people who can only train in the afternoons because they start work super early. But when people speak to us about, is there a better time to train in the day, morning or afternoon? Physiologically, I mean, I don't know how much difference there is on your actual body. I mean, there's probably some research out there that shows one is better. But in terms of consistency, you are way more likely to train in the morning. I feel as though getting up, having that routine, and just getting up, brushing your teeth, having a bite to eat maybe on the way out, and then going to train and then carry on with your day. And we are both firm believers in front loading our day. So doing all the important things earlier on in the day. So then if our day does change, if something does pop up through the day or in the afternoon, and this is definitely something that would happen to a lot of our members, where something happens with their kids, or they get caught up at work, or there's traffic or whatever it may be, and it really becomes out of their control later in the day. But first thing in the morning, it's something you can control. And if you're able to get that done, then the rest of the day will become a lot more productive and you'll feel a lot better for it.
In terms of training in the day, it goes back to what we always discuss, where like the best time of day to train, the science says, is after your second or third meal, due to hydration and glycogen stores and how much energy you'd have in the session. However, if you miss one session throughout the entire week because you went later on and something came up, then it's worse.
And how many people have the availability to be able to
Yes.
train after
Yeah,
lunchtime or morning
absolutely.
tea or whatever it is?
Because we do, but we wouldn't do it because we're more likely to miss the session. And
Yeah.
we're always trying to get that extra percent. But it's just, yeah, absolutely first thing in the morning. And the same way I front load my day with exercise, I do it with food too. So like I am not opposed to getting Thai food for dinner, but I am not having McDonald's or a quote unquote unhealthy meal for breakfast, because the chances are that for me, it's the same with training. Like you can eat healthy all day at work, you can exercise in the morning, but if a friend comes to town and they want to have dinner, have dinner with them. But if you've been eating shit all day and you start your day off poorly, and then the friend comes to town, that's that one day of really awful patterns and routines, which can lead into the next day.
I definitely do it with water. I probably have between half a litre and a litre of water before I leave the house at 4:45 every morning.
That's impressive.
I have my drink bottle in my hand and I'm feeding my dogs and I'm getting ready and I drink it on the way in. But same for me, and I do that and I make an active, I'm conscious of drinking throughout those first couple of hours of sessions as well. And by the time 7:30 is there, I've probably already had 2 litres of water. And then I only have to have another 2 for the rest of the whole day. Same as I, more often than not, I will have my green smoothie for my first meal of the day when I get home, 11 o'clock, for the same principles, where let's just say something does happen, and someone wants to go out for lunch, or like you said, friends or partner wants to go out for dinner for some reason, then I don't need to worry about, oh shit, I haven't had any greens today because I had it at 11 o'clock already.
I do that with my protein intake. So I hit my daily protein intake as early in the day as possible. So once again, the chances that I'm going to go off plan are much more likely at night, and I can have a very, very, very carb and fat dense meal if I've already hit my protein goal for the day.
So when it comes to patterns and routines, I mean, what also sort of sparked this conversation was the change in weather. I mean, there is no doubt we have seen a change here in the last couple of weeks, dating back to last weekend when it was sort of early to mid 20s and beautiful outside. And we've seen a bit of a change in attendance. We feel as though we have a few more people coming along a little bit more often, and maybe a little bit less likely to hit the snooze alarm or the snooze button, I should say, when it isn't 3 degrees in the morning. So can you speak to a little bit about that, how I guess those sorts of external factors like weather can impact on our patterns and routines?
Well, I don't really like external factors impacting your routines and patterns, because that suggests that everything has to be perfect in your life for you to exercise. However, however, what I will say is, if you can do it during the hard times, in the middle of the winter, when it's 0 degrees at 5:15 a.m., it sets you up for a very, very, very successful spring and summer. You can do it when it's hard. You can really, really appreciate how easy it is when those things are good.
I completely agree with you, but you can't say that over the last 5 or 6 years since we've been doing this, we're not busier in September than we are in June.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I wanted to speak about. I agree, like there shouldn't be reasons that we should stop this because it's cold, but I think there's being a realist as well. The realism around that is that we become busier at that time, and I think there is obviously a part of it where when we are feeling good because the weather's nicer, we want to be out using our body more. I truly believe that. We when we are in those months where it is colder and a little bit more miserable, a lot of us want to just be at home, inside, under the blanket and on the lounge in front of the TV. And it gets to this time of the year, and it's probably the last thing a lot of us want to be doing after a day at work when it's 25 degrees outside like it is today. I mean, not to say everyone's going to be rushing to the gym, but people are definitely going to be more likely to go for a walk or go take their kids to the playground or go to the beach or walk the dogs, as opposed to rushing inside, getting the heater on, putting the blanket over the top and watching some Netflix.
Well, I guess so if you look at the example I gave before, where we shouldn't need ideal conditions to thrive, and we should be able to thrive in winter, perhaps if your winter period wasn't the best, spring and summer are the times to really, really develop those routines and patterns so they do carry over into the colder months.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same applies for, when we get, and when, there's the New Year's resolutions rush of people. We don't want people to wait to the new year to make that decision to want to get fitter and healthier, but that can be a catalyst for creating some consistency and some positive and healthy routines in their life that they can carry on moving forward. And the same applies for this time of the year. If maybe people have been a little bit hit and miss the last couple of months, and obviously COVID messed up a lot of that, but if people have been a little bit inconsistent, and now that the weather's starting to get nicer, it's a little bit easier getting up in the morning, attendance in the afternoon becomes a little bit more simple, then carrying that momentum from September, October, November, all the way through summer, and then looking forward to 6 or 8 months down the track when the weather starts to become a little colder again, it already is part of their routine now. It doesn't matter what the weather is. So I think it's a really good time at the moment to make some of those changes, because the weather, whether you like it or not, does affect what we do. And I think if you are able to make some changes based off that and able to keep those changes, and that's what we always speak about, building something that is sustainable, then it's a really great time of the year to make some changes in your mindset as well when it comes to this.
Yeah, and neither of us like the word motivation. However, if you are temporarily motivated, and it's only temporary, just like summer and spring are only temporary, when you are feeling good, write down those things that you must do every day and commit to those small daily tasks. It might be train 3 times a week, drink 3 liters of water, 7,000 steps a day, have a green smoothie, and just commit to them day after day after day. And then those routines and habits will develop to the point that when you don't do them, you don't feel like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are people who do start in the new year and they make some healthy changes. They quit smoking for the 17th time in a row. And then after 2 weeks, they're back smoking again, come, January the 15th. So it is really, it's a good opportunity to make change, but unless it is something that is lasting and something that you are going to sustain, then there's not much point even bothering in the first place. But I really believe that this time of the year, and you would have felt it, and our members would have as well. It is great to be outside. It's great to be using your body and being active and being around other people, and I think it's a great opportunity for us all to really look to become a little bit healthier over these coming months. If you have had a little bit of time over the last couple of months, or even the last 6 months with everything that's happened in the world, where you may have been a little bit slowed down compared to what you had been in previous years.
Yeah, and nothing bad can come from having good routines and patterns. So try and choose the ones that will serve you to reach your goal and just commit to them until they become just a part of who you are. Because from me to Mitch to Steve to Brody, I think we all have really good routines and patterns that really help us, I guess, maintain our level of health. And then when you get, we haven't got kids yet, but when we get older, when we have kids, when we get busier, when shit goes wrong, that's when those routines and patterns that we've, I guess, drilled into ourselves for years and years and years and years hold up and get us through those tough times. Because I did sit in the car for half an hour and talk to myself, but I still went in.
Nice, mate. You would have missed half the session if you were training with us.
Yeah, I know, but it's just so important just to have those routines and patterns and just don't fall away from them, because that's where you hear like ultra super successful people, they end up like becoming really stressed and overworked because they don't want to stop for one day, because they too know the power of just that routine and pattern.
Yeah, you hear of that quite often, where people almost seem like they're obsessed because they don't want to stop, and you can apply that to even some older people that you may know, people who are in their 80s or even in their 90s. We've got a lovely old couple that live near us, and they're the same. They don't want to stop because they know as soon as they stop, like they both go on daily walks, and one of them swims up at the pool. And they've said to me numerous times, if they stop, then they won't start again. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, when it comes to older people, that's when their body just completely gives out and they pass away. So I think obviously it's not that drastic for us when we're younger, but there is a lot of power behind building those healthy and positive routines and patterns. And there are very unhealthy routines and patterns that you can do, like smoking, like drinking excessive amounts of alcohol, like drinking excessive amounts of coffee, eating excessive amounts of bad food. And it can work very easily the other way, where people get in an absolute rut of doing the wrong thing over and over again. So obviously it works both ways with regularity and patterns. And what we're aiming to do is communicate and try to help people build more healthy, more sustainable, active patterns that they can maintain.
Yeah, and I think if people just got better at identifying their patterns and routines, they'd be a lot better off. Because that 3 p.m. sugar hit that everyone craves at work, that is a pattern. The cigarette on smoko, that is a pattern. Going to bed at 10:30 p.m. is a pattern. I don't know about you, but if I miss my bedtime, like 9:30, I struggle to fall asleep after that because my rhythm's out. And maybe it's in my head, maybe it is, or maybe that is my first sleep cycle and I miss it.
Yeah. I mean, there is research on that. I know that, consistency when you go to bed and when you wake up is healthier. But like I mentioned before, I think human beings were created to do the same things that similar times each day. All
Well,
the way down to when you eat and when you sleep and when you wake up and when you go to the toilet and everything that's associated with that. So not to say it has to be to the minute, but you definitely want to have some consistency and some congruency with your day to day. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off on the weekends as well, because not to say you can't go out and enjoy yourself, but if you're used to going to bed at 8:30 during the week and then you're staying up till 3 a.m. on the weekend, like we used to, like it's crazy to think that you're going to be able to recover come Monday again and get back into your routine. So you want to have some similarity from day to day and even from your days to weekends, with the exception of obviously events and things. But I think for the most part, if we keep that as close and as consistent as possible, then we're going to be in a better mindset and we're going to be a healthier person if we are able to do that week after week, month after month, especially if you are following healthy patterns and routines.
all right, one question before we wrap it up. Mitch's top 3 tips for creating 3 healthy habits today. And it can be as simple as drinking more water. What is your advice to someone to make 3 simple changes that they can add into their daily habits that will make a big difference on their health?
Yeah, well, first of all, with anything you want to change, it needs to be specific, because drinking more water, I mean, most people don't know how much water they drink, let alone if they probably don't know if they're drinking more water. So I think having things specific, but I think water is a really easy one to do, because you can just say, hey, I want to drink 3 liters of water, and you can track that very easily. So you buy yourself a big 1.5 liter bottle, and you drink 2 of them, and that's you done. And
tip number 1, so around 3 liters of water.
Yep, I think that's a good one.
Tip number 2.
Tip number 2, I think, is to go to bed at the same time each night, whether that is 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. Obviously, it's always pending when you need to wake up, but having some consistency with that, and combined with that, getting up at the same time as well. So just because you don't have to work, you shouldn't be sleeping in an extra 4 hours. Like, I think that throws you out for the whole week. And my third tip would be, like we've spoke about here, is front load your day. So anything that you may struggle with, whether it is water intake, whether it is eating enough fruit and veggies, whether it is training and exercise and being active, do as much of that as you can early on in the day. And that can come back to if you work for yourself, or if you're doing any cleaning around the house or any yard work or whatever it may be. Do it earlier on in the day, because you never know what the rest of the day is going to bring. And if you're able to get that out of the way the sooner rather than later, then you are far less likely to have something get in the way and have you stop from being able to do it.
Yeah, we discuss this all the time. People think getting healthy is training 7 days a week, chicken and broccoli and green tea. When if anyone who is at a beginner level who isn't currently doing any of those 3 things, if you increase your water intake 3 liters, 50 mils per kilo of body weight, go to bed on time, wake up at the same time, and exercise 3 times a week early in the day, you will get really, really good results.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that last one is probably the most important one in my opinion, because I've seen such great success for myself, and it sounds like you have as well. Because especially for those of you who have kids, or you are working and you really don't have a lot of control what happens later on in the day. You can get told to stay back at work, you get caught up with a client or a customer that goes half an hour longer than it should, you get caught in traffic, there's an accident on the road, you have a flat tire, your kids get sick and you have to go and pick them up, whatever it may be, that there is a million and one other things that can happen later on in the day, but there is very little that can happen early on in the day, other than snoozing the alarm, that can stop you from training early. And then obviously those other things that we spoke about as well, your water and eating healthy and getting your protein down and having, fruits and veggies earlier on in the day, the better.
Well, The Rock exercises at 4 a.m. because no one else is up to bother him.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. And we hear that as well with people who come in with us at 5:15 and 6 and 6:45. A lot of the time the kids are still in bed and husband's still in bed and the phone's not ringing. They're not attending to anything else. They get done, they get home, and the house still hasn't moved from when they left an hour ago. So for anyone who is busy, I think that's a good thing for you to have a little bit of a think about and see what you may be able to change for yourself.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. Have a lovely, lovely day.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.